Are we frauds? Are we done? Are we cooked? I can see why people would have that sentiment coming off of these back-to-back losses to the Eagles and the Ravens, but we're not all the way there. We're not all the way there just yet. I think this game came down to missed opportunities and some fluky stuff, some happenstance not going our way, which a lot of these football games come down to. If you think about it, like we lost the turnover battle. I think Russ cost us in this one. And then the Ravens, even though they did have that pretty bad turnover late in the game, Lamar in the red zone, they had an opportunity to go up 2 scores. If they just would have ran the ball, really, they could have at least kicked the field goal, gone up 10. But then Lamar throws that pick to Minka. Shout out to Minka. It's been a while. Welcome back to getting turnovers. Welcome back to getting some splash plays and picks. That was nice to see. But all that happened on the Ravens side of things. They put the ball on the ground 3 times, and we didn't recover any of them. They had that bad pick, and we didn't take advantage of any of that at all. Whereas our 2 turnovers were very, very costly, very untimely. Just as we're about to tie the game up, Russ, we're leading a really nice drive on offense in the first half. Russ gets that really nice scramble, goes all the way down. It would have been, at the 2 or 3 yard line, 1st and goal. Instead of sliding, he tries to make a play, and I appreciate that. I think we all can appreciate that. As football fans, you appreciate dudes that put the extra effort in. Do the spectacular. Just make things happen, right? But there's also other times to be smart. And so I'm not going to knock Russ too much for that. But at the same time, you can't put the ball on the ground. Just like we were saying last week with Najee Harris. We toss it to you. We expect you to catch it. Russ, when you're scrambling, when you're running, we expect you to protect the ball at all costs. And he didn't right there. We could have scored. We could had a touchdown there. And actually, would we have went up at that point? It might have even been a tie game. I think it was a tie game. We would have went up, but instead, Ravens got the ball, and then they drove the ball down 96 yards after that fumble, and they end up going up in the game. I think they were up 14-7 at that point. If my memory serves me right, that's how the whole sequence played out. Either way, you can't fumble at that point. You can't fumble when you're about to be 1st and goal from the 2 or 3 yard line. You can't fumble. Just really bad. And then the pick at the end, after Minka gets that interception, gives us new life. You kind of thought the game was over at that point. Ravens were in our zone, opportunity to go up 2 scores, and Lamar makes that really bad decision to throw that pick Minka's way. We have new life, and then literally the next play on a bootleg, Russ throws an awful interception to Marlon Humphrey. Just throw the ball away at that point. So all that is to say, I don't think we're far off. I don't think we're frauds. I don't think we're that much worse than the Ravens. I don't think we're that much worse than the Chiefs or the Bills or any of these other teams that we're going to consider AFC contenders. Things just didn't go our way again in this game. And part of that is our fault. Don't get me wrong. But if Russ don't have those turnovers and maybe one of those fumbles that the Ravens put on the ground, we pick up, a little bit of a different story, right? And that's all with us, all that considered, we were missing half our defense for the majority of that game. So there's some silver linings to take away. There's some good things to take away. At the end of the day, none of us are happy about the loss. We just gave the AFC North control to the Ravens because if they went out, they got the division. That's not good. We would have won that game. We would have locked it up. You could have crowned us, but Nope. Now we have to win out, and we need help from the Ravens to get that home playoff game. So that's unfortunate. Ravens got the Texans. They got the Browns these next 2 weeks. So, if they keep playing like this, they're probably going to win those games. And for us, we got a tough Chiefs game at home on Christmas, and then we're going to have a tough Bengals game at home at the end of the season against Joe Burrow and a Bengals team that legitimately may be fighting for the playoffs at that point. They're still fighting for the playoffs, but they may legitimately, if they win and they get some help, they may be able to still make the playoffs somehow, some way after week 18, almost like us last year. Everyone thought we were dead 2-3 weeks left in the season. Everyone thought the Bengals were dead just a couple weeks ago, but with how the Broncos lost against the Chargers and the Colts not playing good, some of these other teams, Miami, I think they're 6-8 too. If like the Bengals went out and they get some help, they're still going to be playing for something. The good thing is we have our playoff spot clinched up. That's the good thing for sure. But you can't really like how we're playing right now over these last couple games. But it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the story. There is context. We were banged up on offense again, no Pickens, missing half of our defense in this game. And I still feel like we were in it. I think it was close, much closer than what the score indicated. We moved the ball better on offense than we did last week, I thought. Russ had a better game than what he did last week, just from a moving the ball standpoint, being in flow, being in rhythm standpoint, because those 2 turnovers were very costly. Sometimes timing is everything. There is that saying, timing is everything. So, like, you can be having a good game. You could be in rhythm. You could be in the flow. You could be making really nice passes. He was dropping dimes to Calvin Austin, had that really nice touchdown to Cordell Patterson. But when you make turnovers or you have turnovers at the moments of the game that he did, like, it kind of cancels the good things out. And that's what I kind of felt like with Russ's game today. Like, we can't deny there were still some vintage Russ moments, but those 2 turnovers like really cost us. That's like that was 14 points in the Ravens' favor off the Russ turnovers. 14 points. We lost by 17. So there you go. Now, granted, Ravens off the first turnover, the fumble in the red zone, Ravens did have to go 96 yards down the field, but still, I do think it's a different story. I think it's a different feel. Momentum's shifted a little bit. If we score there, or if at least Russ doesn't fumble, and hell, we could have kicked the field goal. I still think probably we do everything at all costs to go for it and try to get a touchdown there if we would have been 2 or 3 yards away from the goal line. But, man, yeah, imagine if we punch it in for 7. Imagine if we kick that field goal. We're up in the first quarter. We're up in the first half as opposed to trailing and trying to have to fight back. I think it's a different story because it seems like every time we get up against the Ravens over these last however many games, with Lamar having that 1-4 record, like, they're out of their flow. They're out of their game plan. They're trying to air it out to try to come back. And what do the Ravens really like to do? What would they prefer to do is run the ball, which is what they did at a pretty good clip this game. So I think there's things you could look at in this one and just be like, man, we're not far off, but moments do matter. And for Russell Wilson, the moments weren't good today, for 2 of them at least, the pick and the fumble. He had other good ones, but costly other ones. What are you guys saying in here? What's going on? Someone's saying copium. I'm coping right now. What do you mean? I think I'm dropping facts. I think I'm spitting the truth. Yeah, med school saying copium. Bro, we had. You look at the team stats. 315 total yards to the Ravens, 418. 4 of 10 on 4th down. We had 19 total first downs. Ravens had 25 total first downs. We had the 2 turnovers. They only had 1. Time of possession, they had 32. We had 27. We aren't far off. It's like the Ravens are like this much better of a team. They're so much better than us. Maybe they played a little bit better than us, and maybe they had the breaks go their way more than us this game. I think that's what I attribute this 34-17 Ravens win to, as opposed to us just sucking in, we're frauds and all that. No, we're still a playoff team. We're a legitimate team. We just got to play better than this, man. We're not playing our best ball. We're having stupid mistakes, and we're really banged up on defense. That combination will spell the results that we got today. Sometimes football is not that complicated. It's actually rather simple. Because what were we doing before this Eagles game and this Ravens game? Offense was not turning the ball over. like, even though we were putting up gaudier numbers, that was the baseline. That was the foundation of our offense. At least we weren't turning the ball over. Now, Russ was giving us some spectacular. He was giving us some X factor. He was going above and beyond. He was giving us some prime Russ stuff where we're putting up 40-plus points against the Bengals, 30-plus points in several other games. Like, we were getting that, but the baseline still was we're not turning the ball over. Now we've turned the ball over these last couple games in terrible spots, in terrible situations, in very untimely manners. Again, going back to, like, sometimes timing is everything. We only had one turnover in the Eagles game, but it was the worst turnover that you could possibly have, the worst timing that you could have it. And with Russ, both of his turnovers, probably, if you want to talk about having a terrible turnover in the first half and having a terrible turnover in the second half, those are probably the spots where you would want them least, really. Like, right at the spot where we're about to go up, see some momentum and maybe make the Ravens get out of their game plan and start having to air it out more than they would want to. And then in the second half, right when we get the ball back and get new life from the Minkah Fitzpatrick pick, like, let's just not turn the ball over here. It's still a one-score game. If we don't get a touchdown, not the end of the world, but, like, obviously we would like that. We would like to go down the field and capitalize on it, but let's not have a turnover, let alone a pick six. My God. So we're doing those things now, as opposed to we weren't doing those before. So that I can't say. I mean, it should be an easy switch. It should be an easy thing to fix, right? Let's just, like, don't turn the ball over. Let's just start with that. But I don't know, when you get in the habit, or, you know, you're in these games, you're in the heat of the moment, you want to make plays. I mean, things happen. I mean, we can be honest with that at least. And then, our defense is a lot less healthy than what it was several weeks ago. We're missing Deshaun Elliott. We're missing our starting two cornerbacks. No Dante Jackson out there. Joey Porter Jr. gets hurt in the first quarter. We got James Pierre and Beanie Bishop and Corey Trice. Shout out to Corey Trice making the comeback, the return from injury. But we have those three dudes out there. No wonder we're getting carved up by Lamar and the Ravens offense through the air. I think we would have stood a better chance if we had our starting corners and our starting secondary out there. But, yeah, Lamar had a good game. And that's one of the notes that I wrote down here is, like, did Lamar Jackson lift the Steelers' curse? Or did they just stick with their run game and Derrick Henry went off and our defense was very beat up? And almost all of our secondary was gone outside of Minkah Fitzpatrick. All of our starting secondary was gone, at least, outside of Minkah Fitzpatrick. He had a good game, though. I'll give Lamar credit. Like, that pick was terrible in the red zone. Alex Highsmith made a really nice play on that strip sack early in the game. Unfortunately, we didn't pick it up. But I do think Lamar had a good game. I think he played pretty solid. So you could tip your cap there. But at the same time, it's like we don't have the best formula right now for winning these good matchups. With us turning the ball over and not being healthy on defense. Like, it's not good. I don't know what else to tell you right now. So I don't think we're frauds. It's like we need to clean that up. We need to get healthy. So we got 2 weeks before the playoffs. If we get Deshaun Elliott back, we get Ogunjobi back, we get our secondary back, we get Pickens back. If we're looking more like what we did a couple weeks ago, then yes, we could beat any team. It just doesn't feel good right now. It doesn't sit well right now because we're in the moment. We're 30 minutes removed from losing to the Ravens with a chance to clinch the AFC North, 100%. Lord Dre 10 says, what's up with the screen on 3rd and 11? Yeah, I hated that too. The mindset had to have been we get the screen, we pick up an extra 5 or 6 yards, we're going for it on 4th. But this is my thing. I don't understand the inconsistencies on our decisions to go for it or not on 4th downs. Because if we would have picked up maybe an extra 5 or 6 yards there and it would have been 4th and 5, yeah, maybe we do go for it. I can't remember exactly what the score was at that point. Were we down 2 scores? I think we were down 2 scores, right? Wouldn't that have been – actually, that would have been a worse situation than what we dealt with last week against the Eagles because that would have still been in our own zone. It would have been 4th and 5. Let's say we pick up an extra 5 or 6 yards on that screen, and then we go for it. Down 2 scores in the 4th quarter, X amount of time left. Very similar to the Eagles, but it actually would have been worse because we would have been in our own zone. That's my only reasoning for thinking why we would have done the screen there. And I guess that it is still is a hypothetical whether or not we go for it on fourth. But we did have another spot in this game where it's 4th and 5 in the Ravens zone, down 1 score, and we decide to go, which I liked. I loved it. Like, why not? Go for it. But last week against the Eagles, we're 4th and 7 in the Eagles zone, 9 minutes left, down 2 scores. You have nothing to lose. Time is your worst enemy. Just go for it. There's no reason to not go for it at that point. 4th and 7. So I'm like mind boggled at the inconsistencies of when we do go for it or when we don't go for it. Because you can't tell me this game's 4th and 5 in their zone, down 1 score, was a better time to go for it than last week. No, if anything, last week was a better time to go for it because you're down 2 scores, 9 minutes left in the game. You have nothing to lose. Just go for it. Like, what the hell? This one, you could have maybe made a case to punt it 4th and 5 in their zone because we were only down 1 score. And I think that was that in the third quarter, mid-third quarter, late in the third quarter? There's still a lot more time left. So that's my thing, man. I don't know. I really don't know. The screenplay was terrible on 3rd and 11, but that's got to be the reasoning, or that's got to be the thought process as to why they did it. They were maybe going to go for it on 4th and 5. But that, in my opinion, if that's the case, it even makes last week more frustrating to me as to why we didn't go for it on 4th and 7. And instead, we punted it and let the Eagles throttle us and just run out the clock for the end of the game. Makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. You guys make it make sense to me if you can in the comments, please. But it doesn't. Lord Dre 10 says Broderick Jones. Are you talking about the false start? I thought that was a ticky-tack call. That false start call I didn't really like at the end of the game there. Don't know. Yeah, I thought that was kind of whack. It looked like he was signaling or something to the rest of the offensive line, signaling to Russ on when to snap it, doing something, and they called the false start. It didn't look like he was going backwards or twitching or anything. I didn't like that. Jay Ramos says, this team is not bad. They just need to get healthy. Yeah, I would like to get healthy sooner rather than later. I don't want to just get completely healthy for the playoffs. But if it comes down to that, you can't be complaining too much because first priority is getting healthy for the playoffs. But optimal scenario is everyone's at least healthy for the last week of the season, maybe these last 2 weeks, so you can knock some of the rust off and you're not coming into the playoffs cold. But, hey, man, we'll take what we can get. If we can be fully healthy for the playoffs and some of those dudes are coming back and it's their first game, I'll take it. The Truth 881130 says he's not been good all year. I'm guessing you're talking about Broderick Jones. He's been better recently for sure, but first half of the season, you're right, hasn't lived up to expectations. S. Williams 3636 says we knew the season was going to come down to these games, and so far we're 0-2. Less about the Eagles game because it's NFC. Definitely this Ravens game, and then you got the Chiefs and then Bengals. 3 AFC games, and then 2 of them are AFC North. Yeah, you knew there was going to be meaning in this stretch of the season. I'll give you that. I think less on that Eagles game, though. Because still, even with that Eagles loss, we win this game, we win the division. It did hurt our chances of getting the 1 seed, but with how KC continues to pull out some of these wins, I don't think we were getting the 1 seed anyway. Yeah, they're sitting at, what are they? Is it 13-1 at this point? They have 1 loss, whatever their win total is. I don't even care. They have 1 loss, and our chances were very bleak of getting the 1 seed anyway, even if we would have won this game. But winning the division, that means you can't do worse than a 4 seed. You're automatically going to get a home playoff game. And with the Texans losing to the Chiefs, I think we would have at least got the 3 seed. I think all of us, if you would have asked us going into the season, hey, we won the division, got the 3 seed, we would all take that, right? But unfortunately, we lose this game, and now that's up for grabs. Dre Steel City says we're not losing 3 in a row. We haven't yet this season. Worst has been 2 games. The first time we did it was Colts lost and then Cowboys lost, and then this would be the second time. 3 would be 3 starts to feel like a trend. It starts to feel like a streak. 2 games, you could say like, you dropped 2. Bad little stretch, a couple little hiccups, but yeah, you get 3 in a row. But the problem is the Chiefs. It's going to be a tough game. It's going to be another tough game. We knew what the second half of this schedule was, though, right? Our schedule was not even just the second half. Wasn't our schedule like the toughest in the league to begin with? But we've already clinched the playoff spot. That's the thing, too. We've clinched the playoff spot. Like we've at least done the bare minimum. We've at least hit the expectations for Steeler football. We made the playoffs. So I get it. It doesn't feel good right now. We're not playing our best, but once you get in the dance, man, a lot of things can change. I remember back to when we won Super Bowl 43. Remember that team that we played, the Arizona Cardinals? They were playing terrible at the end of the regular season. They limped into the playoffs. I think they finished like 9-7 after getting off to a really hot start. Went in 9-7. No one was picking them to come out of the NFC. No one. But they did. They got hot at the right time. Kurt Warner, Anquan Bolden, Larry Fitzgerald went off in like 3 playoff games in a row. Hell, they even went off in the Super Bowl game. But then you know what it is. Final drive, Big Ben, game winner, Santonio Holmes, best drive of Super Bowl history, best drive in NFL history, best pass in NFL history. Like, what can you do? When you're going up against the GOAT, when you're going up against 7, like that's the type of things that he does. But like that's an example right there. Even if, even with us losing these couple games, and if it's still not pretty going forward, these last 2 games against the Chiefs and the Bengals, we're in the dance. We got it clinched. That's better than what we could say last year, because we were going into week 18 and really questioning whether or not we were going to make the playoffs, because we needed us to win. Well, we needed, like, the last game, the odds were better than what it was like the last 2 or 3 weeks, because like we needed a lot of things to happen. But it did finally get to week 18 where it's like all we needed was us to win and the who was it? Titans to beat the Jaguars, I think. That was it. Yeah, it was in the last week. But going into that Mason-Cincy game, we were 7-7. We needed a lot of stuff to happen. So I'll take, we're sitting at the same spot, a few weeks left. I'll take knowing that we got the playoffs clinched versus what we had to deal with last year, and knowing that we do got a Super Bowl champion quarterback on this roster, and that our problems, a lot of it has to do with injuries. A lot of it has to do with health. Last year, that was the case too, because we were still banged up on defense. They gritted it out, but we weren't able to get guys back for the playoffs. We just had to deal with what we had, whereas we should still be getting Deshaun Elliott back. We still should be getting JPJ, Dante Jackson back, Ogunjobi back, Pickens back. So at least there's that. There's better hope. There's better upside. There's better ceiling to this team. And the fact, too, that we already have the playoffs clinched, I think says something as well. Let me see what other notes that I got here that maybe I missed. No, I don't think I missed much, actually. I think I hit on everything I needed to talk about. I'll read some of your comments, and then we'll get up out of here. I'll react to some of things you guys got to say. Let's see. The Truth 881130 says they just got their best receiver back from injury, some other guy. So this is bad time for us. I'm guessing you're talking about the Chiefs with them getting Marquise Brown back. Yeah. Yeah, and the Chiefs defense looks good. But it's one of those things, bro. Like, you saw us today. I thought we were there with the Ravens. It's just don't turn the ball over, Russ, and let's get healthier on defense. I think it really comes down to Russ, though, because even with us being banged up on defense, we were still in this game. Those turnovers hurt, man. They could take the wind out of your sails in general. That's 14 points with those turnovers. I think if we're more in the game, it's more of a one-score game, more back and forth as opposed to – now, it was for the majority of it, but we know that last one was really backbreaking, the pick six. I think the offense is able to keep the game more in balance and not have these turnovers. Then the defense may be playing better. You're playing from a different perspective as opposed to – especially a Ravens team that, when they're up, they could really throttle you in the run game with Lamar Jackson, with Derrick Henry. It's a different flow. So obviously the injuries are part of it with the defense, but I also think in this game in particular for today, I'm putting it more on those Russ turnovers than the health on defense. The health on defense is a part of it. I think that's why Lamar was able to gash us in the air for so much, but still, we were in it. We were in it for the majority of it. The Truth 88. The Truth 881130. He's in here heavy, man. Appreciate the comments. He says, why aren't we trying to use Mike Williams more? I think we did today. He was out there. I think Russ just likes to spread the ball around. I think with Russ, it's less about getting the ball to one guy, especially with Pickens not being healthy. Now, if Pickens was there, I do think there's times where Russ would just be like, I like this matchup. I'm chucking up to Pickens. He's a playmaker. But outside of that, I think he just likes to get everyone involved. It's more about what's the best decision on this certain play. Which one of these guys are going to be open with the coverage that the Ravens are presenting? I don't care who's there. Let's just make it happen. So I think it's less about featuring Mike Williams or us not featuring him. And just now, I you know what? I will say this, though. After Pickens, I do think Calvin Austin has become Russ's number two. I think Russ really likes getting the ball to Calvin Austin. As shown again today, he was our leading receiver, 4 receptions, 65 yards. Another good game by Calvin Austin. So, yeah, I think it's more of a Russ thing as opposed to like Arthur Smith and us scheming up Mike Williams or any of that. It's like I think there's just guys you've certain chemistry with, and it just happens. It just works. And Calvin Austin's one of those dudes, and Mike Williams, to a degree, hasn't been what we expected. And it's not the end of the world because we only gave him a 5th-round pick for him. And at least he is providing us depth. At least he's giving us something. I thought he had a decent game. It's not going to be anything gaudy, but he caught all the passes that were thrown his way. Lord Dre 10 says Austin deserves 5 targets minimum. At this point, yeah. He's making the most of it. He's getting separation. Russ is finding them, making catches, making plays. I'll take 50, 60 yards from Calvin Austin week in and week out. That's exactly what we've been asking for. That's what we've been begging for. Someone to at least give us that consistently outside of George Pickens. He's like Tyler Lockett. Yeah, I mean, Russ compared Austin to Tyler Lockett going way back to training camp and in the offseason. Richard Arbizo, what's good, bro? He says, everyone back for us healthy this week makes it a different story. Like the dog I saw from the O-line. Yeah, especially early in the game, O-line was moving people. We did good in the run game. Our offense didn't look bad. It didn't. Russ, 217, 22 of 33. That's what, like over 60%, right? 22 of 33, 217, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Obviously, that pick, again, the most untimely thing, the worst case scenario pick that you could have. It was a pick 6. Right when we got the ball back after Lamar threw a pick and momentum shifted back in our favor and we had life. But then you look at our rushing, Jalen Moore, 4 yards a carry, 12 for 48. Najee had 42 on the ground. Russ had some rushing too, 27 yards with some of those scrambles. So we were 117 in terms of yards on 24 carries. 4.9 yards average. That's not bad. That's not bad. And then I mentioned Russ's passing stats, 217, 2 touchdowns for a total of over 300 yards. We were moving the ball. I thought we looked competent on offense. We looked like a legitimate offense out there. Just we had the very untimely turnovers. D. Lebish says, despite the score, yeah, this is the funny thing because we lost by a bigger margin in this one than we did against the Eagles. He says, despite the score, I felt we played much better this game versus the Philly game. I would agree. I would actually agree. And that's the funny thing with the Eagles game, too. With all that being said, with all the hiccups that we had, the stupid penalties, we were still only down one score in the third quarter. I feel like I've said this so many times this week. So it's like actually nauseating for me to say it again. But we were down one score, second half, in the Eagle zone with the chance to tie the game, and Najee fumbled. And in a way, this, even though I felt like we played better in this one, it felt similar in just that we had the stupid turnovers at the worst time. And that's uncharacteristic of us. And our defense isn't as healthy as it was about a month ago. Sometimes it's not that complicated. We're not giving ourselves that great of a chance to win these games against good teams. Now, I think it's a different story if we're going up against the freaking Patriots or some scrub teams out there, the Panthers. We're going up against the Ravens team that they legitimately have Super Bowl aspirations. And the Eagles team last week, they legitimately have Super Bowl aspirations. So that's why I think, going back to what I said at the beginning, are we frauds? Are we choking right now? Are we cooked? No. We're not buttoned up to the degree that we need to be against these good teams and these good matchups, and it's reflecting in these games. Can that change going forward? Obviously, no one. I mean, does anyone else have a crystal ball here? Can anyone tell me for sure that we're going to continue to turn the ball over at this clip, and that we're not going to get healthy? If you could tell me that, then I think it's a different story. But I actually do think Russ is, after seeing what happened these last two games, he's going to clean it up more. He's going to understand that I can't be costing us like this. The road's starting to narrow. And then I think naturally we're going to get healthy because these guys, Pickens and Elliott, these guys haven't been rolled out for the year. They've been talked about as being week to week. So we should have them back for the playoffs. Hopefully for this Chiefs game, hopefully for the Bengals game, just to knock the rust off before the playoffs. But, hey, I'll take the playoffs as well. Ron Cito 11 says, Russ gets a pass. Ooh. Boz gets a pass for that bad kickoff. I'm definitely giving Boz the pass for the bad kickoff. Yes. I think Russ, he gets a pass because what's our other options? I'm with you. Yeah, like, sure. I agree with that comment. What's our other options? We got to stick with the Russ. We got to trust the process. Absolutely. Yeah, I said this too. Jerry Ramos says, on the bright side, at least Minka finally forced a turnover. Yeah, finally. It's nice. Hopefully it'll come in bunches, man, and he'll get some turnovers these last couple weeks, and in the playoffs, he'll get like 5 or 6 and just absolutely go off. All right, I think that's it, man. I think that's it. That sucked. No other way around it. But I think if the Ravens, if the Ravens lose next week, I think they just got to lose one of their last two. They got the Texans and the Browns. They're probably favored in both of those games. Texans don't look good at all. There is a silver lining to us. Hear me out on this. Hear me out, please. I want to win the division. I want to have the home playoff game, but like, is anyone complaining too much if we're the 5 seed and we play the Texans in round 1? Is anyone complaining? Wouldn't you rather do that than say we got the home playoff game and we go up against the Ravens or the Chargers? All I'm saying. Now, if it's the Broncos, different story, but I think Broncos, they're going to be 7 seed. It's the 7 seed is either going to be Broncos or Bengals would be my bet. Broncos got a tough schedule, man. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals sneak in at this point. As crazy as it sounds, Broncos got a really tough schedule down the stretch that they just lost to the Chargers. That was a bad one for them to lose. So, like, yeah, I think it would be if we had that home playoff game, most likely we'd be playing like the Chargers or the Ravens. Wouldn't you rather just play the Texans maybe? Wild card round 1? If you had to pick, yeah, trust me, the home playoff game, winning the division, it's nice, but what is the ultimate goal? That's the Super Bowl. And to get to the Super Bowl, you got to win the wild card round. What gives us the better chance to win the wild card round? Playing the Texans on the road or going up against the Chargers, the Ravens at home? I don't know. That's it, though. I'm out of here. Stay chilling. I'll be back Christmas Day. I'm working on Christmas. We'll be reacting to the Chiefs game. Let's get that dub, man. Let's get that dub. Let's bounce back. Let's not make this 3 in a row. Because this ain't good. This ain't good right now. Short week, though. I do wonder if we're going to risk putting Pickens out there. We're going to risk putting Elliott or any of these other dudes on defense out there, which is fine with me. You got to play the long game. You got to. It's about being healthy in the playoffs. That should be the first priority. As much as it sucks, as much as it doesn't feel good that we're not playing to our best right now in the regular season, I'd rather be fully healthy in the playoffs than putting key dudes out there in harm's way and them re-injuring themselves and making it worse. But all right, I think I'm out of here officially this time. Enjoy the rest of your guys' weekend. Stay safe. Here we go, Steelers. Peace.